Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. We are a service that's provided by the National Federation of the Blind. It's a free service that's free to most of our citizens. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be blind, visually impaired. Even those that are, deaf, blind now can use this service. Those with certain forms of dyslexia and also learning disabilities. This service allows individuals to read newspapers and magazines free of charge. The ways that they use this particular service, they can use their landline phone, which we find that the senior population uses a lot. We also have the smartphones, and that a lot of the population is using right now to access this service. There's devices within our community that's provided through the National Library of Congress, which is the digital talking player. You can apply for that at the Talking Book and Braille Library here in Indianapolis. And you can also use devices, which I have right here. This is a device through HumanWare. It's called the Victor Reader Stream. It does multiple things, so it's a great tool to have as well. So you can follow our information on our commercials and learn more about the National Federation of the Blind Newsline and some of the services that we provide. Florence, you want to talk a little bit about the magazines that we have?
Surely. Now, there are various magazines depending on your lifestyle. However, I'm going to select the one that best suits you. There's magazines for people who are into fitness, such as WebMD, Shape Magazine are a couple. There's magazines that are just for people that are coping with blindness, blindness specific, that's the word I was looking for. There's magazines for children called Stone Soup. And if you're a person who loves to read and write, poets and things like that, there's Poets and Writers magazines. There's a lot of magazines there, and Ebony Magazine is also there, and that's one of my favorites, Guidepost Magazine. So I can go on, but there are various magazines.
And one real popular one is the AARP magazine and newsletter as well. So you ought to know that. You're a senior now.
You keep doing that.
So, but the AARP magazine, that's a very good one. And most recently, here in the state of Indiana, and particularly in Indianapolis, we have the Indianapolis Recorder, the Indianapolis Business Journal, and the Indianapolis Monthly. So we'll take a short pause, and we'll be right back with our guest and to learn more about NFB Newsline and her journey from sight loss to being able to see again. Man, what a journey. So we'll be right back with you.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana, and we have a special guest today, and Miss Suzanne Nickens.
Yes.
And Susanna, I'm sorry, you're from the Indianapolis area.
Yes, ma'am.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to our
Thank you
show.
for having me. Thank you.
Now, you have a very interesting story, Susanna.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that is one of the reasons why we really wanted you to come on the show. However, what we'd like to talk about first is, before, let's say, you had vision loss. And before your vision loss, you had mentioned that you love to read.
Yes, I love reading. I mean, it's the only way to learn. It's the only way you
Exactly.
can learn.
It's all about literacy. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
the only way you can learn is to read.
And what type of things did you like to read at that time?
I love mystery novels. I love and documentaries, and I love to know why people do the things that they do.
And we still don't know. That's like a dog
Right, I'm a
chasing
very
tail.
nosy woman. I have to know. I mean, if I never figure it out, I'll still be like, why did they do
Just
that?
inquisitive.
Yes, very.
You know, so I mean, imagine prior to losing your sight, what are some of the other activities that you done? Did you drove and all of that?
No, I didn't. I've never
didn't-
learned
you
how
never
to drive.
driven?
Drive has
Okay.
never been my thing
Okay,
to learn to do.
okay.
So, I mean, I take walks with my children. Everything I did revolved around my kids because that's all I have is my children. So everything that I did, I would run, play, we go play kickball and, we would just go to the library and stuff like that,
Okay.
And Susanna, you know what I call that? Build memories.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. You had a great story here to share with you. Now, you lost your sight, right?
Yes.
No,
I
you
did.
don't mind telling us how you lost your sight?
I went to the doctor and she said I needed my retina reattached. So I went to the doctor to get retina reattachment surgery. She never informed me that I could lose my sight by going to get the surgery. So I went in, got the surgery. The next day went to go get the patch removed off my eye with my 15-year-old daughter standing with me. And I had no sight, none. I could not see anything. And they were like, well, give it a few minutes and we'll see if it's just, you need to, because I had the patch on overnight. So just see if that's what it was. And 3 years, 3 months later, it never came back. It never came back. So I prayed, I was like, Lord Jesus, I was the meanest blind woman you ever seen in your life. I mean, I was just bitter. I blamed everybody, but it was my fault. Because if I'd have been taking my diabetic medicine, I wouldn't have had the eye problem, I wouldn't have needed the surgery. So
that leads to a little lesson for everyone that's diabetic. And so what would your message to a person that's diabetic
don't
be?
play with diabetes. Do not play with diabetes. I was 21 when I found out I was diabetic. And that was back in the day when they had the needle that was that long and the vial, and you had to go and walk around with that. And I was like, I'm too young. This is an old people disease. I'm not going to walk around with that. 20 years later, I regretted it. I really regretted that when I lost my sight. And then my children started having children, and I was only able to see one of my grandchildren. And that was all it took, Lord Jesus. That's all I wanted to see was my grandchildren. So I was determined to find a doctor that would give me the surgery that I needed, because I heard on the radio that they had a surgery that could give you your sight back, But with my eyes, they were like, if we tried, you would have no sight. I had 10% eyesight. But with the surgery, they was like, you would have none. And I came back to Indianapolis. I lived in Kentucky. I came back to Indianapolis, and Dr. Sun, he worked at IU. He said if it's the last thing he do, he based his career on my eyesight.
Okay, Susanna. Now let's back up, if you will. You said it's been 3 years?
I was blind for 3 years.
You were blind for 3 years. And before that, you basically, it sounds like you kind of centered your life around your children? Okay. All right. And with your, with the couple with diabetes, now you mentioned that you were 21 when
Yes,
you were
ma'am.
diagnosed. Now, you did take your medicine back then, right?
No.
No. Okay.
Now, because the onset of your sight loss after the surgery, I mean, just emotionally, I'm trying to, you know, because I was there as well, but as a mother, how did that impact you and your family?
Tremendously. My children didn't know how to deal with me because I was so mean, and you know, I was just get away from me, just stop. Because I was the independent one. I'm the mother. I'm the one that's supposed to be taking care of y'all. And my younger children, they were 15, 13, and 11.
Teenagers.
Yeah, they were just babies, and they were taking care of me. And I was just, no. It was very hard. It was very hard.
So with, as you stated that, you know, literacy and education and all of that was a part of your existence. And, you know, going through that period of time, I guess you was too mean to even want to try to read or learn anything too much in that through, were you?
When I was in Bosma, because I was in Bosma before I went blind.
Okay.
Because they were preparing me for that, you know, so I done did all the classes, I done had the Braille, and I know how to care for myself as if I can see.
Okay, now I know that some of our listeners are going to say, well, how did she get to Bosma before she lost her sight? Now, did you go through vocational rehabilitation services?
Yes, I went to Vocational Rehabilitation Center to get into that because back then that was the only way you can get in there. So.
And I must state that now that has changed tremendously. You know, you have to have a vocation or a employment goal in order to receive the services that you received previously. So there's a loophole there that's causing individuals that were at the same state that you were in not to receive any of those services. You know, so I mean, without that, there's no telling where you would be right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you lost your sight. You're going through the despair. You're trying to learn how to navigate blindness. What was the most difficult thing for you at that time?
Trusting people. Trusting someone to guide you somewhere, you know, because no matter how, I can't even say educated you are in being blind, you still need someone there with you. And I didn't want anyone there with me. No one. I didn't get everyone just, this is my problem, let me deal with it. I didn't even pray. I had stopped praying. That's how angry I was. I wasn't mad at him, I was mad at me. So I felt that because I was mad at me, that I didn't even deserve to pray. So, yeah.
So when you spoke to your church, your minister, were they, how did they console you?
They did not stop going.
You just stopped going?
I had stopped going.
Did anybody call you or want to see how you was
Yeah, my
doing?
godmother would call and I would give her some, I'm fine, you know, I'm okay, I'm just, you know, I just don't feel good today. And all the time. I'm just like, I just don't want to be bothered.
And it's understandable sometimes because you give up so much of life, your civil rights, all kind of rights that you have, just the right to live and be independent. So we're going to take us a short break, and we're going to talk about the transition from despair to where you regain your sight. I think that's an amazing gift that you have received. So we'll be right back here, and just stay tuned.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Well, welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana, where we have our guest today, Ms. Susanna Nickens. So, Susanna, let's talk. I like to think of your situation as what we call from trials to triumphs, because you went through some trials at the time that you were losing your sight. You found out that you were going blind, but then the result is now you have your vision back. So you mentioned that you have become angry and bitter to the point where you stopped going to church, you stopped dealing with your family, and so you isolated yourself. Yeah,
real deep. I mean, it was to the point where now it's kind of hard to get around people because I shunned myself from people for so long that if I do get around people for so long, I'm starting to think, okay, what's your agenda?
Okay, okay. Now, I met you a couple years ago.
Yes, ma'am, at the grocery store.
Yeah, at the grocery store.
You and your husband, I was on the phone and your husband was talking and he stopped. He was like, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean any harm, but you're blind. Yes, sir. Yes,
he
sir.
said he said I don't mean to ear hustle, but he was ear hustling, and I remember that day.
Yeah.
And he brought me over to you because I didn't know that you were out there. I was actually coming out of the store, and we had a conversation, and you mentioned that you were losing your sight, that you had lost your sight, as a matter of fact.
I was working. I was in the process of getting. The doctor was in the process of trying to make sure that I could get the surgery then, because I was blind and they couldn't fit me for the device that they needed because I couldn't focus like they need. You know, when you go to get your eyes examined and stuff, and they need you to look a certain way. Well, when you're blind, you can't do that. You know, they say, look this way. I don't know which way you're talking. So, so they had to put what they could fit in there. So I was in the process of getting that done when I met you.
Okay.
So I was waiting.
You were waiting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was waiting for that precious day.
All right.
So you went through the trials, and your family went through it, and your friends went through it too, because I'm sure they missed you.
Yeah.
So, and you, like I said, there was so much other involvement that you had in your life that you did, pre-blindness, so to speak. Now, as far as getting out and voting, did you have an opportunity to vote during those periods of time? Because at the time you just didn't know what was available for you and how
I didn't
you would
know
do that.
anything, and I didn't. really care. You know, I was just wrapped up in, I'm blind, it's dark, I can't see, I don't like this. You know, it was just, woe is me. It was a 3-year pity party.
3 years.
3-year pity party.
But thanks be to God that you have overcome that.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Lord, yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
and so when you met Dr. Sun, is that who it was?
Yes, yes.
And and he started you on this trail back to the sighted world. Now, did you actually believe him that he could do this, or where was your faith at that point in time?
My faith was still at 0, but his was at 100%. That man, he prayed over me. I was woke the entire surgery. We prayed, we laughed, he sung.
Where's this doctor at? I'll check him out.
For me to say this during surgery, we had a really good time during surgery. He was really, and the next day, when I went to get my patch taken off, so he could prove to the world that I could see, he cleared the entire clinic, told everybody to stand to the side, and called me down there.
So, the joy that you had.
Everybody cried. Everybody cried.
Man.
Oh, it was just beautiful.
Man, because I'm looking in my mind. I'm looking, because I used to have these, passions of wanting to see again, to almost to the point to where I could see, memory recall, and I would wake up and realize that I was still in a dream. But for you to wake up and be in a reality that you could really see again, to
And
see
I wake
the
up
faces.
every morning and I just look up at the ceiling and be like, Lord Jesus, is this real? I've been able to see for 2.5 years now.
Wow.
And I still can't believe it.
Now, how's your working with your diabetes now? Are you taking your meds and stuff?
Oh, yes, sir. I've lost 120 pounds,
Oh, my
so
goodness.
I'm no longer on insulin.
Okay.
You know, the only thing is my blood pressure bothers me every now and then, but outside of that, I'm wonderful.
Okay.
I'm wonderful. He has truly blessed me.
And now, I want to know, how did that impact your insurance? Like, how did the insurance cover that? Was it difficult?
No, they were more than happy to. I got Humana, and they did what they had to do to help me get to where I needed to be. And I thank the Lord for them too, because I couldn't afford this in my eye. Medicaid wouldn't have paid for it. Medicaid wouldn't have paid for it by itself, so you had to have additional insurance. Because they had a $10,000, I got a $10,000 one, the one that just looked straight ahead, but they had one that was $25,000 that moves around in your eye. It acts like a normal eye. Mine only basically works where I could see forward, but if you were to move, my eye would jump over there to see you. Without me controlling it, it would just roll over there.
So it's a device that you have that's implanted in your eye. Okay.
It doesn't act to light, like your pupil dilates. And mine doesn't do that. I have to adjust myself to light in order. If I walk into a room that's lit, I have to wait for it to adjust to the lighting, or I can't see in that room. If I go outside, I have to wait for it to adjust to the outside, or I can't see outside, so.
Well, so you can see your grandchildren, you can see your children.
Yes.
You can read.
Yes.
And you can just carry on with a normal side of life.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
For the most part.
What a blessing, And I mean, it's just, I'm just thankful for you. And so maybe someone is out there listening that's going through some of the same trials that you have been through. And too bad Dr. Sun isn't around in Indianapolis
He's
anymore.
somewhere, because I think he got his own practice. He's no longer at IU. But I think he got his own practice. Dr. Sun, go. That
So
is a wonderful man.
Son allowed you to see the sun once again.
Yes, he did. Yes,
Okay.
he did.
Well, we're going to take a short pause and come back to conclude our show with Susanna.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline, experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free. If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Welcome back. And Susanna, your story. That's your story.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I tell everybody. If I run into somebody out on the street and I bump into you, I'm sorry, baby, I used to be blind. They be like, really? And then I go into my story of what happened, and
That's it.
I walk and testify everywhere I go, because couldn't nobody else have done this but the Lord.
There you go.
Couldn't nobody done this but him. So
That's
I
it.
praise him every second of the day.
And he used the man we call son. And I'm going to go there. It says, whom the Son sets free is free indeed.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so with that, we'd like to thank you, our listening audience, our viewing audience, for joining with us today. And as we do with the National Federation of the Blind, we transform dreams into reality with love, hope, and determination. So have a good week.
Have a good week. Thank you. Thank you, Susanna.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you for having me.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.